My name is Natalie Davenport, and I'm going to be talking to you about my life's work in kinesiology. And before I begin doing that, I'll give a little background to myself. I was born in 1937, before the war, and the first years of my life were spent being shunted all over the place. And the one gift I found that I had, which I could share with anything, whether it was human or animal, was the gift of touch. And that has been a very important part of my life. When my mother died, I was 17 and I had to go to work, so was unable to have more education. And for that I bless my life. I worked for over 20 years for the United Nations all around the world. I had some very interesting jobs. And then suddenly, at the age, in my sort of mid-30s, I was invited to go to Denmark to open up a house, which is sort of like an alternative house of holistic psychotherapy. So I went there and had the great good fortune of experiencing a huge number of things that I had never known existed before. It was like a very, very late education. And they included many different types of psychotherapies, different types of bodywork, different spiritual teachings, and an extreme number of quite crazy, lovely things. So I was lucky. I had that behind me. I can be looking at my notes occasionally, okay? I forget where I am. And when I left Denmark, having been the first person, for example, to teach proper massage there, I came back to London, and then I had a series of remarkable adventures. I went around the world making a film on earth energies with some friends. Travelled to America, where I spent nearly 3 years. I went there to interview all the leading thinkers for the first symposium on humanity. And during that time I also helped do the first International Youth Festival. And all of this was taking the new ideas that had been around and trying to spread them in as wide and generous a way that we could. So in America, I got stuck out there. I had decided after studying many different things that I was going to do Rolfing. And to do that, I had to sell my little flat in London, which I did, to pay for the gigantic fees. Money came over to America, I invested it, lost the whole lot. But before I lost it, I got enough money to study what, for me, was the first great passion in kinesiology, and that was touch for health. I absolutely loved it. It was the first time in my life that I had been without pain, because the way I learned was to have a session every week with my teacher and to repeat everything until I really knew it. So I became an instructor. Then I came back to England because my young sister was dying and I wanted to be with her. And she died, and I stayed, and I began teaching what I knew, and was fortunate enough to then have access to all the kinesiology information that was then available through a remarkable South African who taught me and one other person everything in applied kinesiology that was then known. And the way I learned was by teaching, so I used to teach everything that I learned. The Touch for Health movement grew, and out of it came all the things that you might already have heard about. So there was trainings of Paul Dennison and Gordon Stokes, Wayne Topping, Frank Mahoney, Jimmy Scott, and many, many, many others who all expanded the philosophy of what we call kinesiology into a way of helping people. All very exciting. And I never stopped. So I did all these courses, then I learned cranial osteopathy and other body techniques that I thought I ought to learn. Until one day I said, enough. I can't possibly cope with all this, it's too much stuff. And it's other people's stuff. It's not who I am or what I am. At the same time that I came to that conclusion, my German student said to me, so why is it that when you teach us, we learn something different, even though you're teaching the same thing that other people teach? And for 3 years in a row, they asked me this, and I had to really think about it. And in the end, I came to the conclusion that one of the things that I do when I'm trying to convey to people their own abilities is to help them become aware of their senses. So in the Eureka School, to which I belong to, we work with 9 senses of the body. These body senses are the 5 that we know, plus another 4, which I'll mention so you can think about them. Temperature, pressure, balance, and then the sense of the kinesthetic, which is the where we are within our own space. And the art, for me, of kinesiology is helping the person that you're working with open their own senses, because the bottom line with all the work that we do is that they do their own healing. It's not done to them. It has to be a conjoined effort, and in the end it's they who make the change. And to help them do this, you help them to become aware of exactly where it is, what it feels like, the different senses that they have to express themselves. And it will come a point when it's as if they name it, and at that point a change takes place. That's very, very powerful medicine at any level. And I love that work. The other thing to remember in kinesiology, because you're going to be learning a lot about it, is that every single thing you learn is an idea that has been given by somebody else, and you then buy it. You think, oh, that's a good idea, I'll go with that. And what you often don't do is question, where does it come from? What might be the affiliation of that person in their own thinking? Like, where do they come from with their thinking? Is it appropriate for you? It might not be an appropriate thing. So you need to examine everything that you learn and only take in that which you can embody for yourself. Your work will then be enhanced amazingly, amazingly, amazingly. And when you find a good teacher, stick by them until you feel you know more. Only then do you leave them. And keep looking, because it never ends, this searching for more knowledge. So we're learning to enhance our own natural gifts. And the other thing that we learn to do, which is extremely important, is to be a perfect witness. So you learn techniques where you can park your mind. Anything that comes into your mind in a session that has nothing to do with that person that you're working with, you need to park it, so that your mind is completely fresh to what is happening with that person, so that you can witness them. And the more they get witnessed, again, the greater the change that can take place. I think that's all I want to say at the moment. But bless your teacher, work hard. Remember, it's yourself you're working on. The more you change, the better your work will be. And good luck to you all. Lots of love. Bye-bye, Natalie.